In this knife talk video, I'm going to talk about this knife. This is the new 2019 run of Northwoods Madison Barlows, and this is in Cocobolo or Cocobolo. So this is how these knives come packaged. If you haven't gotten a Northwoods knife, all Northwoods knives are made by Gradation Cutlery at this time. They have been made by other companies before, but for a while they've been made by Gradation Cutlery since 2016, I think. This is how they come packaged, and it is quite a bit different than how typical Gradation Cutlery knives come packaged. They're kind of well known for the tube packaging. So cardboard tube. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen it. And this is a little different. It comes in almost like, if you're a fan of Strider knives, a Strider-esque, just a Ziploc bag. But it is a little nicer than that because you can see it comes with some other things. So it just comes in a Ziploc bag with a barcode. You can see that it says what I already said it was. It comes with a little, I guess what you would call a challenge coin or a coin. I'm pretty sure that that's copper. This is not where I normally film, and the lighting is not very good here, so it doesn't come out looking that copper in the video, I don't think, but this is a solid copper coin, Northwoods, with the classic Northwoods arrowhead, which they use for their stamp and their shield on one side. And then this is the Northwoods Presidential. That's the knife that's based on. It's a knife they ran a while back, and a really nice knife. I really, for a long time, it was before buying a Northwoods knife is as crazy it is, which I'll talk about. And I really considered getting one. I ended up not, but kind of wish I had. It was a nice knife with a long spear and then a sheep foot. So anyway, you get the coin, and I'm not going to take it out to show it closer because I don't want to get fingerprints on it and stuff, and I'm not really that into the whole challenge coin thing. I think that if you complete a difficult task, that might be a nice way to commemorate it, but you know, I guess maybe you did complete a difficult task if you got one of these, because it's so crazy buying Northwoods knives now. I never thought of that until right now, but I'm not super into challenge coins. I know some people collect them, and that's a fine thing, and this seems like a nice one. But it also comes, and the knife actually comes in this leather sheath. So this is a leather pocket sheath. This isn't, they've used this one before with black leather and then brown trim, but this isn't the one that I've had before. I have to say that I preferred the all brown without this overlay. I think the overlay is probably just, you know, easier to come off and everything. But I guess it could be, you know, used like a belt sheath. I'm not sure of that, but it seems like that must be the purpose of overlaying this over rather than just stamping it onto the main part of the sheath. And so the knife sits in there. Finally take it out. And here is the Northwoods Madison Barlow and Cocobolo. So this is a Barlow, and what that means, if you're unfamiliar, is it's a jackknife. So both blades, if it's more than one blade, or the one blade, comes out of the same end, and it has an elongated bolster. Now, sometimes people say that the bolster should be at least a third of the length of the overall handle. That rule isn't actually followed very closely. Basically, it just has to have an elongated bolster. Now, a lot of custom knife makers are calling things Barlows that don't even have bolsters. So it's kind of being a little bit ambiguously used, but a Barlow should have an elongated bolster. As you can see, this does. Another example of that, another Gradation Cutlery made knife, is this one here. You can see that it's, you know, similar in the elongated bolster. In comparison to a knife that doesn't have an elongated bolster, like the recently made 82 Possum Skinner, you can see, you know, it's quite a bit longer there, even for this being a little bit bigger of a knife. But anyway, that's what a Barlow is, and it's a little bit different of a Barlow than your typical that you see, like this one, which is more of a sleeve board Barlow. This is what Derek Bone, who he passed away, but he's the owner of Knives Ship Free, which owns the Northwoods brand now, and he commissioned a lot of these Northwoods special factory orders from Great Eastern Cutlery and some from Queen. Called this a church window Barlow, and that's because it has this little bit different shape, a little bit more of a almost a dog leg type shape, but not quite, similar to a trapper. And in that vein, I've seen a lot of people, especially on blade forums, saying that that this Madison Barlow is made on the Great Eastern Cutlery 43 Oregon trapper frame, and that's definitely not correct. So it is similar. It definitely is a similar frame, but I actually asked Bill Howard about that, and he said that it's not. Now, if I recall correctly, he said that it's also not the 21 Bullbuster frame, but it's very similar to that frame. I think it's a lot more similar. The Madison Barlow frame is a lot more similar to the 21 Bullbuster frame, which makes a lot of sense, being that they are making Bullbuster knives right now on the 21 frame. So I think that, you know, if you see people saying that this is the 43 frame, definitely not correct. And I think that it's pretty close to the 21 Bullbuster frame. But this is the Cocobolo, and it looks a little different than other Cocobolo I've seen, to be honest. It's a lot more orange. There's a lot more streaking in it. The grain's a little bit wider, especially I wish I had it with me, but I don't have my 44 Buffalo Jack, which is also in this same wood. But this definitely has a little bit more iridescence almost to it also, if you can kind of see that. But it's a good looking wood. Almost kind of an orange, like a tiger color look to it. But it's a good looking wood. I do think that I generally prefer wood on a handle to be a little bit darker, but I think that it's nice looking, and it's certainly made well. You really can't feel the transition there. There's no snagging or anything between the bolster, maybe a little bit on this side, but really not too much at all. And you know, it's a really slender frame, which is a big difference between this and the 21 Bullbuster, which is really wide. This is a slender knife, especially for the size, so it's not too difficult to carry. I've had these before, and my brother has one, and they're knives that for the length are easy to carry. So let's open it. This run is in a drop point blade, and as Great Eastern Cutlery drop point blades go, this has a little bit more abrupt of a belly. They've definitely done some on their 23 frame that have a more gradual belly, and I think it's a good looking blade. I think that it's definitely a blade that could be used really well for work, for cutting food, cutting boxes, things like whittling, not whittling, but you know, carving. But I do think that generally for my EDC type needs, you know, just day-to-day stuff, I prefer a little bit more gradual of a belly. But it's a good looking blade. It has a swedge, as you can see on both sides, has a long pull. It has the Northwoods stamp there on the tang, and then USA, and that's all that Northwoods knives have. They don't have the model number or anything like that. So it's a really simple looking knife, really nice knife, and it's really well made. So to look at the back there, no gaps whatsoever. This is actually a really, really well fitted knife. There's no gaps between the spring and liner that I can see at all, actually. Another thing, it is really, really well centered, and it sits well below the frame, so you're not going to have to worry about a proud tip after a couple sharpenings, and it sits in the frame so that you don't have to worry about this knife having blade wrap, which was a concern on the 43 Oregon Trappers. The one that I had some blade wrap that I had to send it to GEC to fix. So that's something that, you know, it's good that this doesn't have. The action on this knife, the pull is not quite as weak as the 43 Oregon Trappers were. I would call it right around a 5, possibly, Yeah, right around a 5, and pretty even. The pull opening is really nice. You can see that it snaps closed. It doesn't have the strongest snap in the world, but again, that's not bad in the sense that it's gonna close itself. Like, you know, when you push this, it's gonna close, so you don't have to worry about it like not closing or anything. It's not that the snap closed is that weak, but it is kind of can be a good thing in the sense that some gradation cutlery knives snap closed so hard that they have blade wrap from it, and this is not going to have that. You can see that it, you know, goes to the half stop and then snaps open really nicely, but it doesn't have quite as much snap closed. Now, I haven't put any oil on this, and I think that putting oil on it could improve the snap closed a little bit. I do think that it could have a little bit more snap closed. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but certainly it's not an issue. It's not a practical issue whatsoever. So overall, really, really well made. Again, super good fit and finish. No scratches on it or anything like that. I really like this arrow stamp that they use on the Northwoods knives. It's actually one of the few shields that I really like. And just overall a nice knife that was kind of tough to get. Like a lot of people have been talking about, and like I said earlier, these Northwoods knives are in high demand, and there's usually kind of a frenzy to get one when they come out. This one was especially so in the sense that their site actually didn't load, and this is corroborated by other people. Their site didn't load for almost 10 minutes after 4 o'clock when they were supposed to be dropped. They actually didn't upload one of the handle materials, the red linen micarta, until like 15 or 20 minutes after 4. I think 20 minutes after 4. So they had a little bit of, I think, you know, trouble with the site, and that made it a little bit more hectic, but I got one. I'm happy with it. I think it's a nice knife. Now, these Northwoods knives are more expensive than gradation cutlery knives typically. So I think if this were a gradation cutlery knife without the Northwoods branding, with the same fit and finish, it would probably have been in the $120 range. But with Northwoods, this was about $140. So you do definitely pay a little bit more for the Northwoods styling, the stamp, the shield, the kind of unique pattern that Gradation Cutlery doesn't use on any of their knives. But it is a nice knife. I think if you really like this styling, the arrow stamp and this particular pattern, it's worth getting, and it's worth that extra $20. It has the same great build and construction and quality as Gradation Cutlery knives. Certainly not more, I wouldn't say. And some of them, because they have more of a unfinished blade finish, more of a brute de forge, almost, not really, but out of the heat treat blade finish, are less highly finished or less highly polished than Gradation Cutlery knives. That's not the case on this knife because it does have, you know, the mirror polish bolster and blade. But, you know, like I say, it's pretty much the same quality and high quality and high fit and finish of a Gradation Cutlery knife, just a little bit more expensive for that brand and because they are in such high demand. So it's a cool knife. It's the Madison Northwoods Gradation Cutlery made Madison Barlow in Cocobolo or Cocobolo. And it's a nice knife. It's one that I'm glad to have gotten. I'm not sure if it's one that I'll use or not, but definitely a nice knife for anyone's collection, especially if you're a big fan of Barlows. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And don't forget also to go out and do good.